Hey guys, this is just a little summary video to help you write your own comparative essay for your two YouTube videos. In this first video, I'll be using the A-grade example YouTube Comparison 1, which focuses on the text 1, how to get fit in 2018, stay motivated to be healthy in the new year, by Haley Sani, which will be text 1, which will be green, and then text 2, which will be the BuzzFeed I tried a diet and fitness plan based on my own DNA. The links are provided there. This is just some form of the formatting that you'll need to do, but we'll go through that when you go to format it before final publication. The other thing I want to note is that I'll be using some color coding in this, and you'll see some comment boxes here. I'm not always going to read the comment boxes. This is for those who don't wish to listen to me speak as I go through this, because you'll be provided this just as a Word document within itself. But let's also remember that as a comparative video, or rather essay whereby you're comparing two videos, we're wanting to note similarity, so how the texts are similar in maybe their attempt of using form or language, but also different in terms of their context, audience, and purpose. And we need to think about how a A-grade example, such as the one we're about to read, will note both similarity and difference throughout the essays. And I've asked you to see comparative language Word document for help, which if you were to go to the OneNote, after all the resources you'll see is there, comparative language. And for those that were in my classes last year, you would have seen this, where it simply is a nice little grid to help remind you as to how to add a connective, so a word that you put at the start of a sentence to help begin that sentence. Before moving on to giving further examples, highlighting the significance of that information, but most importantly of all, to note difference and then similarity, and even to an extent as to how to write your concluding sentence, but also incorporating examples where you just simply write the connective and then put a comma. And you'll see this appear time and time again, but difference is highlighted in a magenta pink and similarity is noted in a light blue. So let's begin. So the first paragraph, as you can see, it looks very long, but remember that the comment box is there, and I'm doing a size, I think 12 font, so don't be too intimidated. But context. The development of YouTube as a pop culture phenomenon has established a new genre of film where YouTubers unconventionally break the fourth wall and interact with the audience directly. Now, we usually do a topic sentence, which you're still more than welcome to do. However, this student decided to make an opening statement which addresses the context of YouTube as a genre platform of film and visual media, where they are already addressing how it is different, because a lot of film and media outside of YouTube does not use a lot of direct address unless it is an instructional video. So there's already the context being explored there in terms of its social and cultural change. The intimacy of vlogging, video blogging, is especially advantageous for BuzzFeed Blue and Haley Sani. So we know that the two texts are being directly referenced by their full names the first time they are referenced, because this is acting very much as an introduction. To promote their fitness videos, as viewers favor the privacy and cost efficiency of accessing guidance from their homes over the self-consciousness that seeking more public help evokes. And what they're suggesting there already in their following statement is the context as to how vlogging in the form of fitness videos on YouTube is clearly going to be cost effective, and unlike going to a gym or I guess seeking public support, allows for more privacy. So contextually, fitness videos, or how we are supposedly meant to learn how to be fit, has changed thanks to vlogging. Already, and you'll see I've just highlighted these in size 16 and the magenta, we're seeing connectives being used to note difference. So we should see at least two differences and at least one similarity, two similarities being made in terms of their ideas where their examples might be different. So let's read on. While Sani is an amateur YouTuber creating videos to gain publicity and money, BuzzFeed Blue was a corporate news site. I would already be telling the student to write in present tense, so is a corporate news site because they still exist and we're analyzing in present tense. Regardless, it's still an A. Acknowledging the popularity of vlogging, it now pays employees to create vlog-style videos to compete with this current trend. So as noted, the first comparison is already acknowledging how the two are different, but how BuzzFeed, as once a news site, is actually socially and culturally changing how they present the information based on, I guess, popularity. We then move on to a comparison of similarity, where both channels distinguish themselves amid the vast number of YouTubers also creating fitness videos in differing ways. So it's a nice little elaboration or linking sentence to their first example, which is going to note difference, but they've already acknowledged that they are similar in how they wish to set themselves apart. We then go back to the first text, so please remember that you shouldn't swap which is text 1 and text 2. You always want to mention, say, in this instance, Sani first, then BuzzFeed, Sani, BuzzFeed, Sani, BuzzFeed. And we have the example that Sani's cliche girl next door look and room decor establishes her popularity with teenage girls and makes these viewers believe that her tips will help them hack into a healthy lifestyle. And what I quite like about this example is, where is it? So here, the first text is noting how it targets its audience, or rather sets the context as to what the video is about, but is also already referencing form in terms of the setting and how it appears, but also using direct language examples. So please remember and refer to the language. Don't just generalize or write what you think they say or what you think you heard. Use specific examples, because this is going to show your use of evidence that is embedded fluently. After that example is given, we're going to see a direct contrast, because we're using those connective words. So contrastingly, they could use whereas, although, instead. You want to vary these. You don't want to use the same one all the time, alternatively, 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 but you will need to read your sentences aloud to make sure that they aren't disjointed depending on which one that you use. So let's read BuzzFeed. Contrastingly, although they are traditionally a news website, BuzzFeed Blue adapts the popular vlogging style to connect their scientific viewpoint with middle-aged women who have continuously failed to see results from other generic workouts. Their professionalism and technical language discreetly condemns fitness regimes like Sani's by claiming that, unlike other charlatans, which is meant to be an insult, they predict how people should exercise and eat depending on their genetic makeup, providing evidence of proven results rather than purely belief. And here we can see that they're using direct language as a reference. Although this example is quite large and a bit repetitive, the student is still successfully drawing a comparison. But to be mindful of the back and forth and the short, sharp examples that you might be familiar giving, whether it be in your whiplash analysis or last year's comparisons, you could consider how you don't need to repeat some information that's already been referenced. But the student still managed to receive an A because of the fluency of the evidence and the direct analysis and contrast between the two texts. We then have a similarity noted in just another little elaboration, which will then be built upon by the second example given in the context paragraph of, despite their differences, both channels suggest that they have the viewer's best interests at heart, which we know is a driving motivation for, I guess, a viewer to keep watching, because if they're not connecting with, I guess, the presenter, then they're going to lose that focus. And we then have Sani claims that 2018 will be yours, inspiring viewers by proposing that she wants to help you become a better you. So there's that use of repetition and direct address in the Sani example, which the student could have actually mentioned specifically, not just by stating what they say, but using the repetition and direct address. That shows that they're actually acknowledging the specifics of the language technique, not just expecting the moderator to know them. This doesn't mean they define what direct address is or repetition, but they're simply acknowledging the specifics of the techniques. We now have a similarity in terms of how both videos use their context to address their audience, but it is noted that although they both present it through their voice or how they speak, it's also noted the difference of how the second text uses both personal recount of the presenter's own battles with eating disorder, but also the form of using an edit or a montage of that battle. So it makes more of a personal connection. Contextually, it suggests that Dasha is both based on personal experience and failure, which once again would lead into the context of the video itself. As always, the paragraph ends with a concluding sentence which summarizes the context of both videos to make sure that it doesn't end on an example, but notes how they both are similar in terms of their context or alternatively different. We now move on to purpose. Note that this paragraph is roughly, the context is roughly about 316 words. Remember, you have 1,000 words at your disposal. So if you were to write 250 or 260 for each paragraph, knowing that I'll be giving a little bit of feedback, you know you're in safe hands, but be mindful of your editing because it is very difficult to cut 200 words from somewhere. But already I would be able to cut a few things from this based on the repetition that is unnecessary. Purpose. While both channels aim is ultimately to make money, they have differing approaches. So there's that overriding purpose. Go back and look at the videos because already you could be a little bit more specific. Yes, every video on YouTube's, I guess, considered purpose is to make money, but how do they do it? Or rather, what other purposes do they have? Let's find out. Sunny's obvious self-promotion, continuously telling viewers to subscribe, is expected by her teen audience and allows her to gain popularity. Now, you'll see in my notes that sometimes I actually write how, based on this reflection, the student could have given a little bit more information or been more specific because we don't want to generalize, but it's still an example as to the purpose of gaining subscriptions. We then have the immediate difference for the second text, which says, this deters older viewers who are comparatively attracted to the discrete approach that BuzzFeed Blue used to maintain credibility. This is evident in how BuzzFeed Blue strategically places a watch more on the screen. So it's more the idea of active subscription, so asking or telling people to like and subscribe, as opposed to suggestive or passive. Watch more is less threatening in its language as well, and if it appears just as a button rather than actually the viewer being told what to do, we can see that effect. And they discuss that in terms of an older audience supposedly being offended by the idea of being told what to do. We then jump back to the first text where we have, in terms of the purpose, Sunny heavily focuses on ego gratification to draw viewers. This is drawing upon Vance Packard's example as to why, or the hidden persuasive techniques where appealing to someone's ego as to how they might feel better or look better or be better because of watching the video is instinctually going to make them want to watch it more. And as we know, a fitness video, if it's not going to make you feel good or improve your life, then it's probably a satirical video or doing the exact opposite. But here the student then draws on this by saying her intro consists of electric guitar riffs played over jump cuts of her workout and healthy meal preparation. This clearly establishes her intent on motivating viewers to transform physically and mentally. So there's that use of form in terms of editing and what is presented and visually shown, but also what is said towards the healthy lifestyle she presents herself living. Similarly, BuzzFeed Blue's use of a split screen, so there's that form to show side-by-side comparison of Dasha's body transformation, suggests that women with realistic figures can achieve success. The comparison in body language, facial expression, and confidence conveys their message that in a culture where everyone is trying to tell you what's healthy or not, it is not all about the numbers, but rather feeling good about yourself regardless of if you fit the mainstream body type. And once again, we have a comparison of language and form. Interestingly, through reading this, you would understand that, well, Sunny, without even watching it, based on, I guess, the information, might be a younger female presenter as opposed to this Dasha's, and already that could be a consideration for the audience because of what they're saying, but also how they appear on screen. We then have another elaboration, or rather link to the next example, which notes similarity of through Nike active wear product placement. Both channels reinforce the representation of a healthy lifestyle and generate income by promoting a product that is typically associated with elite fitness. Now, what's interesting is if you were to watch the videos, I don't necessarily believe that BuzzFeed, as a corporate news site, is looking to gain links to Nike, but just so perchance happen to have their presenter wearing Nike. So just be mindful of that if you're going to directly make that statement. Regardless, the contrast is then discussed because Sani directly tells her viewers to purchase the meal prepping service HelloFresh to save them so much time, effort, and money. Now, this is a difference between the two in terms of how they're using cross promotions, using direct language examples of, well, mentioning the partnership, but save them so much time, effort, and money. It would have been interesting to have mentioned the intended effect of this following this statement, which we know would be an appeal to saving money, or rather saving time, which you'll see in the persuasive devices. But the student jumped into the direct contrast of whereas BuzzFeed Blue hints to the helpfulness of the fitness program fitness genres, or fitness genres. I don't even know how to say that myself. The student then gives a specific or further example of how Sani promotes to the audience to buy HelloFresh by advertising her 30% discount promotion code. It would have been good to say using statistics, or I guess the active saving, by even seeing the percentage, 30%. But then the student mentions once again the fitness genres throughout the video, openly inviting them to buy it. And you can see here already how this could have been much shorter and direct in less than 75 words instead of repeating similar statements, but the student still showed their understanding. Ends on a concluding sentence, which summarizes the purpose of both videos and notes how they are similar and different. We will then move on to the third paragraph, audience, which I would be expecting to see a little bit of different examples, which they are not repeating anything to do with HelloFresh, or we do see it here though with fitness genres, or however you say that. So let's read on. Each channel has a different target audience, and hence they connect to these viewers using different techniques. Broad, but we know what they're going to be talking about. Sani targets self-conscious teenage girls as her fan base, whereas BuzzFeed Blue caters to middle-aged feminist audience who feel that generic fitness regimes have failed them. Now, it's pretty bold to say middle-aged feminists. It could just be middle-aged women. So maybe contextually, they would have needed to mention that a little bit more in terms of the social historical context, but they've been able to sneak it in there. We then have a specific example. Sani utilizes the pressure that teenage girls feel to behave in particular ways and to have a certain body type by showcasing herself living that ideal lifestyle. The cross-cut clip shows her effortlessly preparing vegan food and posing in her activewear, along with a voiceover directly conversing with the viewer, so that's direct address. This is form and costume, which they say engages them and makes them believe that they can obtain her physical aesthetic by applying her direct advice to themselves. So this is where we might say sex sells, but the idea is many fitness videos have either the man being shirtless or the woman being in, I guess, some either high-priced fitness wear, such as Lorna Jane or Nike, and certainly not necessarily a baggy shirt. So consider that if you're really stuck on some specific examples, but it would hope, based on your various comparisons, that there be differences that are beyond just the visual. We then have a comparison to BuzzFeed, where the student mentions how BuzzFeed focuses on the journey of a third person, Daisha, which means that the voiceover that is used is third person, it's not direct. This, they believe, appeals to more of a critical audience who would like to not feel as pressured by the presenter. And then they go on to mention that additionally the use of the person who is not seeing results from regular exercises relates to the struggles the target audience feels. So the fact that the BuzzFeed video is about being fit, trying a new diet on the DNA, but not necessarily having the success, is vastly different in terms of the audience who would watch that to maybe feel good about themselves or understand that not every diet fitness regime works, as opposed to Sani, who might be saying use mine because it works 100% of the time. So there's a comparison there. We have a final note of how they both use language to target their audience, and the student makes reference to how Sani uses youthful jargon, such as "she'll be like you only live once, so the acronym YOLO, while BuzzFeed uses the scientific language relating to predicts and DNA and framework, and then they end on a concluding sentence. I'll wrap this video up so it's not too long, but feel free to read this at your own, I guess, pace, looking at the notes, and hopefully this has brought you some comfort as to how you might write your own comparative paragraphs, knowing that as long as you have maybe 2 to 3 good comparisons that note similarity and difference, and they use both references to form, the visual, but also language, which you have here, so a summary of persuasive speech used in videos, you then have the form, you'll be fine in terms of getting a draft submitted that shows your understanding as to how the videos are different. Thank you.